Good morning. Welcome to the morning show with yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist. Glad to be with you this morning. Hopefully, you had a good night's sleep and you're ready to face the day. Well, tomorrow is a very big day. Tomorrow morning, we got PPI, CPI, and retail sales. And for the most part, markets have been waiting patiently for that. And we're kind of like in a holding pattern for a lot of different securities. Now, last night we were unable to do our evening watch list. So I'm going to bless you this morning, and we're going to do that right now. All right. So we're going to look at some charts, and then we'll get into the news, and then we will end it off with what I promised you yesterday that we would do part two. And we were talking about the overall collapse of the United States of America, how it's collapsing from within. The government of America is collapsing. Uh, we have economies collapsing. We have infrastructure collapsing. We have roads and bridges included in that collapsing. And the school system is pretty much collapsed, and there's just is so many things. Death by 1,000 cuts, and not to mention the worst of it is the debt crisis. The federal government right now, the debt to GDP is staggering, and there's no way in the world to overcome that. Even if they taxed every American at 100% of your income, you still would not even be able to put a dent in that government spending and debt. All right. So, yeah, it's an issue. Okay. It's an issue. So, this normally ends pretty badly. We all know that. You know, this is not fear mongering, this is just truth telling. Okay. So, we are looking at different aspects of this collapse. And yesterday we looked at the explosion of cases of autism and cancer since, going back to the 1980s and 90s. So for the past 30 years, we have seen an explosion in these two areas, cancer and autism. And these things used to be a rarity. But now, not only are younger people starting to become, gravely ill, things that used to only affect older people. You expect an elderly person to maybe get cancer and Alzheimer's, not a 30-year-old. You would never expect someone in their 20s and 30s to be diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. But we see that. You look at the children's ward in any hospital in the United States, and you'll see that the beds are pretty much full with little children battling leukemia and other forms of rare, quote unquote, cancers. And so, since the society is sick, medically sick, and also mentally sick, mentally ill, all these things are bearing down on the country hard. There's so many crises. There's a water crisis. You can't drink the tap water. There is a homeless crisis. You got to step over bodies just to walk down the street or go to the store. There's just so much. Then you have the drug epidemic. Anything that is a negative stat, the US is leading. The US leads the world in all areas of negative stats. The most incarcerated people on the earth. If you took every other nation and added it up, the US still has more. The US has more cases of morbid obesity than any other country. If you took all those cases and added them up, the US would still have them beat. We have the most cases of cancer. We have the most cases of autism. We have the most homeless people on the street. We lead in violent crimes and rapes and murders and thefts all these things. America leads. All right. And this is not a good thing. This is not the thing you want to be leading in, but America leads. And the problems are only going to become graver. So we'll get back to all of that. Let's knock these charts out real quick because some people are confused. They don't know what to think because the markets are acting kind of weird. So you have a few things happening. This first chart is theta. And you can see the consolidation. All right. You're trading in this little narrow range here, not really going anywhere, but you have a bearish trend momentum reading, which means that the downside is becoming a little accelerated. You got key support that you're about to take out, and that's not a good thing. And you're below the Kumo cloud, and you're in a corrective phase on top of that. So yeah, that's a negative aspect there. And people are wondering, what is it going to take to move this market? And that's a really good question. I think that as Bitcoin goes, if Bitcoin has a bad day, altcoins usually have a terrible day. That's the way that works. This next one here is Zcash or ZEC, and you can see it's in a locked-in bear market. You see the little bear here in the bottom right-hand corner, and you see this red line here. That's your bearish trend momentum reading. We expect this market to go nowhere but down, all right? And it's locked in. So the selling is not going to stop until this drops off. Next, we have XRP Ripple. Bearish trend momentum reading, price action below the Kumo cloud. You're consolidated with a bearish bias, and the market's gunning for this support here, followed by this one. And it's looking like bad news within a consolidated pattern. Then you have silver. So we had a crash alert given to us on yesterday's close for silver futures. We have a bearish trend momentum reading as well. So it's looking like the bullish algo shift is ready to come off, and the market looks like it's about to roll over, which means that this is a failed attempt to take out the 52-week high. Now, until we get downside confirmation, this is just an alert. Sometimes these alerts can lead the markets 3 to 5 days out. So always keep that in mind. Next, we have the Dow Future. So the Dow Future still has the bullish algo shift. So that is still pushing the prices higher, muting the bearish trend momentum reading. Once the bullish algo shift drops off, and we still have a bearish trend momentum reading, that's when the market tops out and then rolls over and the sell the rally mode kicks in. Right now, the sell the rally mode has been paused because of the bullish algo shifts. Next, we have the NASDAQ 100 futures, and kind of similar, but not as much because it's still in the Kumo cloud. Still has the bearish trend momentum reading as well, and the negative bot check a few days ago. So we know a down move is coming. The question is, are we going to see this down move tomorrow? Is the markets setting themselves up today for the down day tomorrow? Is the sell the rally mode about to kick in on the stock indices? That is what we're looking for and watching for. Next, we have gold futures. Gold futures also gave us a negative bot check on the close yesterday and has a bearish trend momentum reading. So the question is, are we about to see a major down leg come in the gold? Or is gold going to buck the trend and continue to push higher? Then the next question will be, can it take out the old resistance and put in a new 52-week high? Or is this where it's going to just ultimately go and fail? Again, you have a bearish trend momentum reading and you have the bullish algo shifts working at the same time. So the sell the rally phase in gold is muted for now until the bullish algo shift falls off. So today's close should be very telling ahead of tomorrow's breaking economic news. Then we have the E-mini S&P 500 also looking like the Dow. You are poking up through the top of the Kumo cloud. You still have a negative bot check. That's what this red diamond is. And you have a bearish trend momentum reading. So the sell the rally mode has been muted for now because of the bullish algo shifts, which are attempting to push prices higher. The question is, can the market rally enough? Can the stock indices rally enough to turn the bearish trend momentum reading bullish again? And then at that point, the trend, which is a bull market trend, will reclaim the price action and we head to new 52-week highs. So that is the crossroad right now. That is the crossy road chicken game that the market is playing right now. And we will see tomorrow. Next, we have crude oil. So crude oil has been still in this corrective phase here, right? And you got the rally alert as the market ended the week. Then we got that upside production just a little bit. And then we got this. So the question is, are we going to see any upside production from the rally alert? This will be interesting to see. You got back-to-back rally alerts. I think the issue, though, for crude oil is that the bottom of the Kumo cloud resistance is pretty strong right now. All right. And that's kind of interlapping with the psychological $80 resistance as well. So crude oil is going to need a nice consecutive strong close above 80 to put in a short-term floor to rally from. It still is in a locked-in bull market, though. We can't forget that either. You got the bullish trend momentum reading in this, so that's a locked-in bull market. Even if the market were to come down and take out this support, as long as this stays green, that will limit any downside activity for now. Because you see back here when we had the bearish trend momentum reading, right? And the market continued to go lower as it should have under this auspices. But then when you bottomed out and you turned green with the rally alert, now the time, the clock is ticking. So because we can lead the market 3 to 5 days out, you still have a few more days here, like maybe toward the end of the week. And then at that point, if the market has not rallied and gotten itself somewhere, at least maybe midway in the cloud, this could end up turning red and we could see a very precipitous drop. If that happens, then you know we're gunning for 2 longer term supports. The one here at 67, followed by nothing else. Once it gets here, that's it. That's all she wrote. 52-week lows are in play. All right, so the next one here is, let's see, the euro. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the dollar because of the deficits and interest rates and all these things, right? And inflation. But what we have here is a locked-in bear market in the euro. And you had these back-to-back bot checks, negative bot checks, these red diamonds, and we haven't gotten any downside production yet. So when it comes, it's probably going to be fast and furious and pretty incredible. All right. And we just crossed over the threshold from, a bull market that was trying to hang on to a official bear market. We are in a locked-in bear market now in the euro. We got the first hint that a bear market possibility was on the horizon back here, all right, in October of last year, September and October of last year. Then the market was able to do something to stop that in November, and that took the market into 2024. But then it started losing that momentum, and then the correction became deep enough that the market dipped back briefly into the beginning stages of a bear market. The market recovered, couldn't hold on to it, started correcting again, and this one it got even deeper because it took out the prior support, and then it crossed the Rubicon into an official locked-in bear market, which is where we are now, and the price action is still below the Kumo cloud resistance as well. 108 has proven to be a very significant resistance area. Can the market put a stop to this and stage a bear market rally? Of course it can, but that would take the US dollar falling to pieces. Now, when we move over to the pound sterling, it's the same type of a setup. All right, except for you're in a bull market still in the pound sterling, whereas in the euro, you are now in a bear market. But you can't brag because look, these orange bars is the beginning stages of a bear market, meaning you're looking at the possible top of a bear market. All right, so you got to think about that. Can this market, do something? Of course. Here's what the pound sterling has going for it, the euro didn't, and that's the bullish algo shifts that are muting any type of selling pressure. All right, whatever the sellers are throwing, the bulls are buying. But you got back-to-back negative bot checks, which means we know a big down move is on the horizon. We had a crash alert here just 2 trading sessions ago, so we still have 3 more trading days, and we do expect for the market to start to head lower. Now, switching to the Aussie. Now, the Aussie has gotten a little help finally from gold prices. All right. And we had the beginning here, back here, of a, you know, situation where we thought we were going to see a really significant bear market rally that never materialized until now. So you still have the bullish trend momentum reading, and these bars have turned back blue. Now, the last time this happened, the market did stage a pretty significant rally. Can it do it again is the question. And if so, is it going to make it this time? Because if not, and we do another one of these patterns, then that means that the market is coming down here to test or take out these lows here, which is rather significant. So we need to see something here, folks. This is looking interesting, to say the least. Then we got the Russell My Hustle. So the Russell gave us a crash alert on the close yesterday. It's still in the Kumo cloud, has a bearish trend momentum reading, right? But this is not a bear market rally, not according to the algo charts. Yes, you had a rally off this low point, which was quite significant. But in order to qualify for a bear market rally, the price action needs to be above the Kumo cloud. This is not happening. This is not happening. This has not happened yet. Can it happen today or tomorrow? Of course it can, but it hasn't happened yet. So this market is running the risk of failing and falling apart. Can the trend reclaim the price action? Of course it can, but this crash alert, along with this bearish trend momentum reading, along with these negative bot checks that we got back to back, I believe the market's going to fall out of the cloud and drop significantly and quite substantially. So we're going to have, that's what we're watching for. It's going to take something pretty amazing to drop this negative bearish trend momentum reading and to negate this crash alert. It's going to take some doing. Next, we have Ethereum futures. So Ethereum futures here has the bullish trend momentum reading in a bull market. So believe it or not, the Ethereum futures is in a locked-in bull market still. The problem has been the bearish algo shifts that are keeping the price action in a corrective state. It's still in a state of correction, and it's coming down here and threatening to close below this support. If that happens, the new leg down is always more significant than the prior. So that could take prices down here toward these old lows of 2165 in your Ethereum futures. That is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. I need to pause for one quick second. Give me just a second. Okay, I apologize for that. So this is interesting for Bitcoin and Ethereum because the charts are not identical, not yet anyway. So let's switch over to the next one here. All right, so here's Bitcoin. See, Bitcoin's different. It has a bearish trend momentum reading, right? It's still in a bull market though, but this market is still in the sell the rally mode. Now you have bullish algo shifts that are kind of muting the sell-off right now. All right. So the sell the rally mode has been muted for now because of the bullish algo shift that is attempting to push prices higher. Now, the funny thing is, if you look at the price action today, the market did move back lower. So the question is going to be, where do we close today? Today's closing prices will be quite telling as what we can expect tomorrow when the numbers come out, when the government numbers come out. Okay, and then here's your US dollar. Now, the US dollar is trying to hold on to the 105 handle. All right, now it's still above the Kumo cloud. It's still in a locked in bull market. See the bull, and here's the bullish trend momentum reading. Okay, so we're still in a bull market, locked in bull market. There's nothing bearish on this chart except for the bearish algo shift. That's it. Bearish algo shift. That's the only thing bearish on the chart at this time. Now, the other concern is, are we, topping out here like we did back here? And is this bearish algo shift going to go hot, meaning go from white arrows to the purple lavender arrows? That normally means the market's vacating the consolidated phase and accelerating selling pressure like it did back here. And it dropped rather precipitously. Is that what we are expecting to happen again is the question. Not to mention, it did it, had the positive bot checks right here, positive bot check, right? Positive bot checks. Price action did move up a little bit. Nice little leg up, but then it couldn't hold it. Then it got another bot check here, and you did not get that rally. Then another one here, the up leg didn't come. This one did give you an up leg, and then this one, market ignored it for quite a while before you got the rally alert. So sometimes the market tries to buck and ignore the bot checks, but at some point, it always comes back into alignment. So we know that it's coming. We just don't know, is it going to be on the back of the market selling off a little bit more? That's the question mark. If the U.S. dollar can stay above the Kumo cloud, though, it's a wrap. We know that it's going to 108, and then it's going to take off like a rocket from there. All right, that's what we know. All right, now we have two bonus charts that I'm going to show you real quick because these have been in the news and we need to deal with it. So let's deal with it, right? All right, so our first one here, just bear with me. I'm going to get these two charts open because we need to talk about it. These are our two charts of the day, okay? We got two charts of the day and our spotlight focus for today. All right, so the first one here is Tesla. So as you know, Tesla has been having some woes. Elon Musk has been in the news. They're saying something about fraud at Tesla or something going on there. I don't know if it's embezzlement. I don't know what they're saying, but it's something. It's not good. Then there's sales woes as well. He's struggling. So this is what things look like on yesterday's close. We had a crash alert coming into yesterday, and the market instead gave us a rally alert for today's trading in Tesla. Again, rally and crash alerts tend to lead the market 3 to 5 days out at times. So the question is, are you going to see anything good come for Tesla in the short term? The problem is that it's happening right here at the bottom of the Kumo cloud resistance. And as you can see, the pressure to push prices down is heavy. And right now, Tesla's at the risk of dropping below $160 a share. That's a really big deal. That's not something that you want to see in this current environment. All right. You're in a bear market, right? But at least you got a bullish trend momentum reading on yesterday's close. So that gives a little bit of hope for the market, you know? So we will see what happens. Now, right now, as of this moment, Tesla is trading at $178.16 a share. So it looks like that rally alert was correct, and the market is not waiting 3 to 5 days to do it. It's doing it immediately. A big majority of the time when we get rally and crash alerts, the markets do normally respond immediately. But there are times where the indicator will leave the market a few days out. But in this case, the Tesla is rallying, and it's filling a gap that it made on the chart as well. So the question is this just a one-off to fill the gap from last week, or is there more upside to go? This could all be just technicals. We don't know. We won't know too much until the close, but from what I can see, what I can gather, it's looking like you may get a continuation into tomorrow if the government reports are good enough. It just depends on what this inflation is going to look like and what is it telling us. That's going to be, I think, the key for now. But as you can see here, the market is attempting to best the $180 resistance. 180 is a key psychological resistance zone for Tesla at this moment because, as you can see here, it's had a big problem staying above 180. All right, 180 seems to be kryptonite right now for Tesla. All right, so that's that. Next one is Apple. So Apple has the bullish trend momentum rating. It's above the Kumo cloud, which means it is an official bear market rally mode. Okay. Now its psychological resistance is at 190, corresponding with the top of the Kumo cloud resistance. So you're going to need to best that, and then on not only that, but we're going to need to see a few strong consecutive closes above the 190. And I don't know if you're going to get that, to be honest with you. So far this morning, the market has topped out at 188.30. All right. So that's still not besting the 190 resistance. It needs to do it. Another issue the stock has is the gap, significant gap. It's going to need to be back and filled at some point. In addition to that, you have China woes. All right. So you have China woes for both Tesla and Apple, where because of the trade wars that the U.S. is having with China right now, China's like, well, we can stick it to you just like you're trying to stick it to us. So they're not selling any iPhones in China right now. They're not really selling any Teslas in China right now. It's just a big mess right now for both of these companies. And the question is the good times over? Are we going to see a return to the highs here for Apple? Another run at the 52-week highs? Or is this really more so a head fake and the market's about to roll over? Now, to be fair, looking at Apple Computer, our bars have turned blue, which means you're looking at the possible beginning stages of a bull market formation, which means you're looking at the potential bottom of the bull market. Now, back here, when the market changed officially into a bear market, it didn't really sustain. It put in a new leg lower, yes. But then we did this. So now the question is this just a thing and then we're going to roll over here or what? Well, for now, you got the bullish trend momentum reading and price actions above the Kumo cloud. So we got to call it the way we see it. which means you're in a bear market rally. Can it become more significant? Of course. But always remember, too, the trend, which is a bear market, can reclaim the price action at any time. All right, so I just wanted to show you these charts this morning since we missed our opportunity to do so last night. So I want to make that up to you and start things off with the chart segment. Now that that is out of the way, we can talk about what's going on in these markets and what's going on in this economy. Well, as you know, AI is still all the rage right now. That's what everyone's rushing to. That's where all the venture capital is going. And, this is nothing new, okay? Because Hollywood has a history of human-like AI talking to people, not to mention places like Chuck E. Cheese. Remember the robots? That was considered like, George Jetson technology of the time, to have these these animatrons moving and talking and singing. Remember Walt Disney? I think, Walt Disney was the first to bring you the animatronics, and then of course Chuck E. Cheese used that to. And there's another place. Was it what is it called? Five Nights at Freddy's or whatever. So, yeah. Okay. So the animatronics, was like the big first thing, but now, we're talking about AI and how AI can hold a conversation with you. The animatronics couldn't hold a conversation with you. They were programmed with predetermined, speech, movements, and all that stuff. But the real world counterparts never really seem to live up to the hype, right? Sounding too robotic or taking too long to respond. But OpenAI may have finally cracked the code on voice interactions with AI, though the company unveiled an upgrade for ChatGPT that includes a rather impressively human-like voice feature made possible by its new flagship model, GPT-4o. Now, during a live presentation, OpenAI's latest product helped with breathing exercises, walked a user through a math equation, and served as a translator. Now, OpenAI says that GPT-4o average response to audio inputs is 320 milliseconds, which is on par with a typical human-to-human conversation. The internet was impressed, to say the least. Sharing your screen with ChatGPT while talking through problems could be a game changer for coding and data-focused work. One developer stated that the potential is pretty exciting, right? But typing out class or API specific names into questions for ChatGPT while coding was rather tedious, they said. The demo made it seem as if they could talk to ChatGPT like a coworker. They've essentially made text input almost be the barbaric form of communicating with ChatGPT or any AI now, the developer said. OpenAI's big reveal shows the shockwaves the startup keeps sending through the tech world. Now, this time around, it's likely Apple that is feeling the heat. Before Monday's event, a report detailed how ChatGPT prompted Apple executives to realize the digital assistant Siri needed a major upgrade. Those updates, which are expected to come during Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference in June, will now undoubtedly be judged against GPT-4o. But it's not just Apple that's been put on the back foot. For months, there has been heavy speculation that OpenAI is developing a web search product to compete with Google search. OpenAI is even reportedly trying to snag Googlers from its search team. In the meantime, Google I/O, the company's biggest development event, kicks off today, and AI will surely be at the forefront. Even those deeply invested in OpenAI's success are getting competitive with the red hot startup, Microsoft, which has poured $10 billion into OpenAI, is reportedly building its own AI model in an effort to show the tech giant doesn't plan to just ride OpenAI's coattails during these AI wars. Now, we talked about it during our chart segment where I showed you the US dollar. And some people are starting to believe that the dollar can't be dethroned. That's according to Morgan Stanley strategists who outlined their reasons the greenback will remain its status as the world's dominant currency. Now, this was done on a podcast last week, and bottom line, King Dollar doesn't really have any challengers, according to Michael Zezas, the bank's head of U.S. public policy research. Now, here's another thing for you here. We talked about Tesla and Apple. That's how we ended our chart segment. But, Apple desperately needs its next big thing because under Tim Cook's tenure, there have been no earth-shattering product launches, which is exactly what Apple needs right now. Not now, but right now. With iPhone sales slowing and revenue falling, it's time for the company to reclaim its innovative edge. The question is, do they have the stomach for it? We're talking about money. They're going to have to dump money into their R&D department. Can they do it? Do they have the stomach to take on the extra risk? So while Apple is desperate, Tesla is contending with mayhem. The company rescinded job offers for incoming full-time employees. Can you imagine that? You go through the process of applying for the job at Tesla. You go to an interview. You're then offered the job for which you're told you got the position, welcome aboard. Then you put in your 2 weeks notice at your current job, only to be told the job offer has been rescinded. The move is part of broader cuts at Tesla, which have spanned the past several weeks and aim to eliminate over 10% of its workforce. So not only are the job offers being rescinded for people who already gave their 2 weeks notice, but now they're going to fire an additional more than 10% of its current workforce. Unbelievable. So when you hear these things backed by the algo chart analysis, this kind of tells you where these two companies are headed, at least where the price action is headed, and that is straight down. Yeah, think about it, folks. These are radical shifts that we're starting to see. Very radical. And you've heard us talk about DINKs on this channel, which is dual income couples with no children. Now, supposedly, they were known for having disposable income and spending their paychecks on major investments and luxury vacations and early retirement, but that's just not the reality. You see, a growing number of these child-free adults are living paycheck to paycheck because it's harder for them to get access to tax credits and government assistance. What does that tell you? It's telling you that there is a magnetic force that is pulling people toward government assistance. Before long, everyone will be on it in some way, form, or fashion. and it's going to be considered hip. They will make commercials with neighbors asking, hey, did you get your universal basic income check today? If you haven't, you need to go online right now and find the status of your universal basic income check. It could be that you need to set up your account online, and it's easy to do. It only takes 5 seconds. Get your check today. You know you can hear commercials that sound a little something like that. You know it. You know it. You know it. You know it. It's coming. Today's earnings is Alibaba, Home Depot, Sony, and a few other companies. And Disney is hosting its upfront presentation, unveiling its 2024-25 program lineups. Google's Input-Output Annual Developer Conference is today. Google's new Pixel 8a smartphone is available to buy. And Cannes Film Festival kicks off today. All right. So this week we're focusing on, I don't want to say health and wellness. We'll just say the healthcare industrial complex. How about that? I think that's more fitting. So we talked about the increasing rates of autism and cancer yesterday, just over the past 30 years, and the billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars that have been spent on cancer research, and how after all this money has been poured into it, how a majority of the money has gone into the pockets of the pharmaceutical industrial complex, and why they will never, ever be a cancer cure, because there's no money in cure. There's only money in management. That's it. Treatment. The money to be made is in treatment, not cure. Think about it. If a pharmaceutical company developed a cure for cancer and they sold their medicine to every person on the planet Earth that has been diagnosed with cancer, right? And all the people who take it are cured. That's it. All the money they spent to develop it, they're not going to make that back unless they charged, something obscene and absurd for the medicine. But let's say they didn't. Let's say it was very well priced. They would probably not even turn a profit. And if they did, it would be very little. And then after that, that's it. The company goes bankrupt because now you've cured everyone and no one else needs your medicine anymore. Thanks a lot. So it behooves the medical industry to just talk about treatment. Here's a pill that will take the edge off. That's it. That's all you can do. That's all healthcare is about in the United States. You never hear them talk about cure, only treatment. They even teach you in medical school. There's no cure. The body cannot heal itself. It needs our synthetic drugs to make itself well and functional. That's what they tell you. There's no cure. And every time someone does come out with a cure, that person is smeared, destroyed, their integrity is destroyed, their finances are destroyed, their livelihood is destroyed. And if they can't do away with just locking you in prison, the person usually dies of quote unquote natural causes or suicide. Yeah. Now, because they changed the internet, it may take some doing for you to find all the amazing men and women that have found cures for pretty much just about every major disease you can think of, only to be destroyed by the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Think about it. All they got to do is come and buy you, say, we'll give you this amount of money, hit you over the head with the briefcase packed full of money. They buy the company. and then they destroy all the research, set it on fire, so they never have to worry about it threatening them and their livelihood again. That's what companies do. They've been doing that forever, not just in health, but in just about any area. If someone is comes up with a disruption to an industry, that industry will do everything in its power to make sure that thing never sees the light of day, even if that means buying the company and then dismantling it and burning all the research data, shredding it in the shredder. Absolutely. That has happened more times than you would like to believe. But now we have a power grab and a power struggle. You have the shadowy forces of global governance coming up against the elected officials, the visible government. What do I mean? Well, you know, this march to one world government is already here. It's already been established. They flexed their one world government muscles on you during the pandemic. And now they're not resting on that. They need more. They need more power, more control. So the question you need to be asking yourself this morning is, how can we stop the World Health Organization's horrific pandemic treaty? Now, throughout COVID-19, the more money countries spent complying with the WHO's guidelines for mitigating COVID-19, the more people died. Because of this, many countries in Africa had a COVID-19 death rate, which was less than 1% of that seen throughout the Western world. Rather than admit this, the WHO is using those deaths to justify a horrific treaty that dramatically increases its power to control each nation's pandemic response. Since its most evil provisions, complete censorship of dissenting voices, and the promotion of dangerous bioweapon research that inevitably leads to catastrophic lab leaks, have been effectively concealed by the WHO, and they feel that it's necessary to understand exactly what is in it so that we can stop it. So here's the history of this pandemic treaty. Since the WHO aims to dictate how individual nations' doctors practice medicine, this has required bypassing the normal democratic process, as the growing populist movements of many nations would reject the WHO's edicts. As treaties may supersede national law, the WHO chose to push each nation into adopting a treaty that grants vast powers to the WHO. Remember, the WHO is not a body of elected officials. There was no general election or none of that. All right, unelected people. This campaign began in November of 2020 at the G20, which is the annual gathering for the 20 leading economic powers, where a proposal was put forward for a pandemic treaty to ensure the nations of the world would handle future pandemics in a quote unquote appropriate manner. Now, a few months later, in March of 2021, citing the statements made at the G20 meeting, the World Economic Forum echoed this call. Now, since that time, a series of policies and regulations has gradually been put together by the WHO, the UN, the World Bank, the United States of America, and the European Union, and other multinational organizations, with the assistance of the other globalist organizations like the UN and, yes, the Rockefeller Foundation, to remedy the fences in our pandemic response. Now, those policies and regulations in turn are part of a pandemic treaty and amendments to existing international health regulations. By virtue of both documents being international treaties, they must then be obeyed by each signatory country. Now, the pandemic treaty hence contains a wish list of each thing the globalists have been working for decades to attain. All right, this has all been worked on behind the scenes for decades. Climate change and pandemics. Well, since the war on climate change and the war on pandemics represent two of the greatest sources of wealth and power for the global elite, a lot of work has been put into conditioning the public to be terrified of the existential risk each allegedly poses. Now, the pandemic treaty seeks to link both of these together by arguing that climate change is the root cause of the disastrous pandemics, and that this problem thus necessitates giving the globalists control over how we interact with the environment. For example, they argue habitat loss brings humans in contact with deadly diseases. However, while this is a huge ecological issue, there is very little evidence trying it to pandemics, as outside of biolab leaks, consequential animal to human disease transmissions are quite rare. But what about health? Well, One Health began in 2004 at an international globalist conference where the idea was put forward that public health needed to be expanded into an umbrella which could control and profit off every aspect of our lives. For example, climate change was folded into public health under the rationale that the dire environmental threats we face necessitated making ecological health a core facet of public health. One Health, in turn, was merged with the notion that the problem that we now face were so complex that they should be decided by corrupt panels of multidisciplinary experts. One Health is now embedded within governments and international organizations on every continent. The CDC has a One Health office, as do many other U.S. agencies such as the USDA, the Fish and Wildlife Service, the FDA, and the NIH, National Institutes of Health. Many other large international organizations, the UN, the FAO, OIE, and UNICEF, and globalist groups like the Rockefeller Foundation and the World Economic Forum, are also aggressively promoting the One Health message. Many billions in grants have been given globally to establish One Health as a pillar of public health throughout the world, despite the fact it has not yet done anything that benefited health. Not one thing. Rather, everyone who made a lot of money off COVID 19, even Pfizer, is promoting One Health because enshrining this incredibly vague declaration within the legal and public health system provides them with the means to enact whatever policies benefit them. Advancing One Health is thus a key theme throughout the WHO's pandemic treaty. But what about protecting pandemic products? Well, since the pandemic racket's primary source of revenue is selling proprietary products to mitigate the next pandemic, the treaty protects that market. This is done by reaffirming the use of incredibly profitable emergency use pharmaceuticals, which, as we saw throughout COVID 19, were a disaster. Since an emergency use authorization, or EUA, can be issued with a minimum or no testing of a drug or vaccine that eliminates the lion's share of the cost in bringing a new pharmaceutical to market. Rather, with the EUA, the manufacturer can roll out the pharmaceutical product absent a demonstration of its safety and effectiveness, but only if the manufacturer, government, World Health Organization, and everyone else involved is shielded from liability for injuries that result. Remember, they retroactivated the immunity for the vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic. Why do you need to retroactivate something prior to the event? Just think about it logically. The medicine came out during the pandemic. So why do you need to make it retroactive to before you even made the medicine on the market and before the pandemic? The only way and reason you do that is because it is not a new medicine and the medicine has been used in other ways or put in other things that, if ever discovered, would hold them liable. Did you get that? I hope so. Now, the WHO's pandemic treaty, in turn, makes it very clear each signatory nation is expected to push such EUA products onto the market and has stipulated that immunity from liability be given to the manufacturers. You don't need to give them immunity from liability. No other company gets to have those privileges. You don't give Kellogg's immunity from liability. You don't give any other manufacturing company immunity from liability. If you stand by your product, you don't need immunity from liability. Something is very off with that. No one else in any other sector of the economy gets immunity from liability. You only feel the need to do that because you know that what you are putting forth to the public is harmful. Likewise, since the bioweapons industry stands to lose a great deal of money if public protests outlaw their reckless research, the treaty also protects that business. Similarly, the WHO's new BioHub initiative does as well. That's right, sharing of biological materials with epidemic or pandemic potential will be done, folks. It's in writing. So then that brings us to misinformation. Well, one of the biggest problems the pandemic cartel now faces is that because of the audacity of their vaccine lies, much of the population no longer trusts them. Because of this and their unwillingness to admit their mistakes and reform their actions, the only remaining option available to them is to outlaw all dissenting voices. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor or scientist. Your ability to dissent will not be tolerated. A recent UNESCO report outlines global measures to curb speech, creating an internet of trust focusing on misinformation and disinformation, hate speech, and conspiracy theories. The pandemic treaty, in turn, emphasizes countering false information during health events. It defines a infodemic as excessive misleading information during disease outbreaks. Note, ironically, much of what our authorities told us throughout the pandemic was later proven to be deadly misinformation, while at the same time they suppressed the critical scientific evidence which, had it not been censored, would have saved millions of lives. Orwellian doublespeak, in turn, permeates the pandemic treaty. It frames censorship as protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms. But what is it really doing? If you haven't figured that out yet, their main goal is usurping national sovereignty. One of the major debates in international law is the question of when exactly an international treaty supersedes national or state law. Since the underlying purpose of the WHO's pandemic treaty is to provide a mechanism to bypass populist resistance to the WHO's abhorrent edicts, the treaty is attempting to supersede local law and to do so in secret so local legislators don't realize what has been agreed to until the treaty's emergency pandemic provisions kick in. For example, to quote an international lawyer and a former World Health Organization physician scientist, a rational examination of the text in question shows that the documents propose a transfer of decision making power to the WHO regarding basic aspects of societal function which countries undertake to enact. And two, the WHO Director General will have sole authority to decide when and where they are applied. Remember that they apply to both pandemics and quote unquote other health hazards. The proposals are intended to be binding under international law. These powers include controlling where people can travel, forcing them to quarantine, implementing contact tracing, mandating treatment or vaccination, and prohibiting competing treatments. Furthermore, many of the treaty's provisions also violate existing laws. Mass surveillance, which violates basic medical privacy protections, taking away intellectual property rights from members of signatory nations, and requiring nations to share potential pandemic pathogens with other nations and the WHO. Yeah. So Merle Nass, MD, enter Merle Nass, is a quite an unassuming country doctor who lives in an inconspicuous house in rural Maine and loves to garden. That's fitting since she has been a fierce thorn in the medical industry complex's side for decades. She was one of the leading activists who opposed the military's devastating anthrax vaccine. During the COVID era, Merle began treating many of her COVID patients with repurposed drug protocols, the hydroxychloroquine, and continued to do so even after her state moved to protect business interests by cracking down on anyone using off-patent therapies to treat COVID-19. Merle spoke out both against this and later against the experimental vaccines. The medical industry, in turn, decided they needed to make an example out of her and chose to do so by suspending her medical license. The charges and justification for doing so were so ridiculous that 13 members of Maine's legislature, shortly joined by 9 more, formally protested the medical board's conduct. The license suspension ended up backfiring because losing the ability to practice medicine freed up a lot of Merle's time. So on June the 2nd of 2023, while she was fighting to protect her medical license, Merle decided that she needed to do something about the World Health Organization's pending power grab and started the WHO Pushback Project, which she initially funded with $25,000 of her savings, along with the money she had received from Substack subscriptions. The nonprofit became known as Door to Freedom and has gradually received more and more outside support. Merle, in turn, has done dozens of podcasts and numerous grueling tours to address parliaments around the world about the pandemic treaty. On a recent trip, she briefed 5 different parliaments. These efforts have resulted in numerous countries' parliamentarians being convinced their country should resist the pandemic treaty and the amended international health regulations. Now, in turn, many political parties are now vocally opposed to it. Germany, the Netherlands, the Philippines, and Estonia. Furthermore, some countries are even beginning to pursue charges against those who were complicit in the COVID-19 disaster. Italy investigated the former health minister for homicide because he covered up vaccine deaths. And Slovakia's prime minister is investigating the entire COVID response. Murrow has also spoken to our elected officials and at congressional symposia, such as one hosted by Senator Ron Johnson, while Door to Freedom has provided legal support to elected officials who wish to use their position to oppose the pandemic treaty. These are monumental political shifts, and it is unbelievable this organization was able to pull this off in a matter of months. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you what you need to do. You need to get these people out of office. You need to vote these people out of office. That's the only way you're going to stop it. All right? States need to reject this World Health Organization's power grab because the U.S. Constitution reserves health care as a state authority. All right? At least know that much. Okay? This is what we need to do. All right? So this is the world we're living in, folks. All right? This is where we are right now. All right? You still have a chance, your last chance, come the November election. You're going to have to do what you got to do. Vote out all the Democrats and Republicans, replace them with independents. You don't have a choice, folks. If you want to stop tyranny in its tracks, that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to disrupt. That's a word they like to use, disrupt. So you need to disrupt. All right? All right. Well, that's what I got for y'all for today. Remember, the system works if you work the system. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And on that note, I'm out. Peace.